Hello, ladies and gentlemen at home. Welcome to a special of the Real Deal podcast. The Academy Awards were on Sunday. They sure were, weren't they? I think my panelists with me can agree that the Academy Awards were on Sunday. Logan, were the Academy Awards on Sunday?
I mean, they were on Sunday last time I checked my clock on Sunday. I think they were on around that time.
There's been a mistake. It's actually turned out that they were on
look at you
Monday past midnight like they always are.
Oh, you're so hip.
This might be a voice unfamiliar to Real Deal subscribers. We've got our new best friend Stuart Elmore coming into the studio today from Cardinal Film Fights.
How's it going, guys?
We just did a fight with them on Monday, which will be up, I would assume, next week, or is it after
2 weeks?
2 weeks, you guys are going to
March 13th, it'll be up.
Well, there you go, March 13th.
And, of course, as I established, we are here to talk about the Oscars that were on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just start with our thoughts on the ceremony at large. The hosting, the pacing.
All right, I guess I'll start that off and say that surprisingly for somebody who wasn't really excited about Kimmel hosting, I think he did probably one of the better jobs in the last few years.
I agree.
I agree.
In terms of because here's the thing, when it comes to late night hosts, Kimmel I don't think is anyone's first or second choices. I think there are a lot of better in terms of heck, I even think Seth Meyers is becoming a little bit better than he is just because of the whole Trump and how he's just doing first looks better and whatnot. But with Kimmel, unlike Neil Patrick Harris or Ellen or whatnot, he was a nice in-between that made really good Trump jokes that weren't really that cheap. I liked the whole tweeting back at him and whatnot, and the Matt Damon feud.
I'm a sucker for the Matt Damon
was really
jokes.
well done in the show. I mean, my favorite part of that is when Matt Damon trips him when he's in the aisle. And they don't even do anything besides stare at each other.
What award was he giving when he was supposed to he was giving an award, and then Jimmy just pans to Jimmy Kimmel conducting the
That was they were giving out one of the screenplay awards.
Yeah.
Yes.
And whenever Matt Damon talked, they played playoff music.
Oh my gosh,
No,
that's hilarious.
my favorite of the Matt Damon jokes was the "We Bought a Zoo, Great Performances" bit.
Yes.
The reason why I love that one so much is I didn't know whether or not they did the other two before it to lead up to that joke.
That's true.
Or because of.
No, it was a really good punchline.
No, yeah, it was. But I was wondering if did they just do a Javier and that Seth Rogen bit just to lead to a joke to the Matt Damon feud? And it was
that wouldn't surprise me with Kimmel.
It wouldn't.
Actually.
Same.
My only thing with Kimmel's not judging hosting, I loved him too. I think the tour bus thing could have gone a little bit shorter than what it was. I think it was something that when you wrote it down on paper, bringing people not unexpecting. To go to this theater that's filled with celebrities. That sounds like a great idea on paper. And I think wasn't it Ellen that ordered pizza?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I think Ellen kind of screwed anybody hosting after her because she did stuff like that. And
the Oscars are a prank show now.
I was gonna say I think anyone who is heading the Oscars after Ellen was you should probably do something to one up what she did, or you should probably do something that can buy time, because despite them feeling like it feels like 47 hours, it feels like they probably don't have enough content initially to fill those hours.
Yeah, and I think
a stunts.
I initially just thought, when it was leading up to it, I was thinking, okay, this might be good, this might not. I don't know, but when they just brought them in and then they kept going, they all had their phones up, and I think Denzel, I guess, officiated a wedding or something like that.
He was just being Denzel.
Yeah.
Going, ha ha. You're married. Even
it went a little long
months.
for me, but that was the only thing where I was kind of sitting on my couch thinking, "Oh man, this is still going on."
I love the guy from Chicago because I'm from
Gary.
the Chicagoland area, and he's like every person you'll meet walking down the street of Chicago, and he was a wonderful specimen.
I don't know if it was the married couple or not, but I think one of my favorite moments, just from that tour bus thing, and there weren't a lot of great moments, but when Kimmel was like, "Who's your favorite actor?" and I think. One of the black ladies that was in the tour bus just looked at Denzel and went, "That guy,
that man right there."
It's that man right there, and it's that's funny. That's kind of bizarre.
I liked when he was talking to the other black woman, and he was like, "You seem to be ignoring all the white actors," and she's just like, "Yep."
Oh my lord.
But the Kimmel bit that didn't really work for me was when he kept dropping candy on people.
Like the Hunger Games.
I think that was another Ellen kind of situation where they're just trying to be like, you get candy. And
I know,
it
was dumb filler. I liked the joke when they brought them down donuts, and then he said, "All right, drop in the coffee." I thought that was funny.
Not that I want to prolong this conversation we're about to have, but how do we feel do we feel as if he like handled the mix-up?
I was about to say the mix-up.
It was awesome. I think
I agree. I think he did it pretty well with grace, and the Steve Harvey joke right away I knew was coming.
I was gonna say I think Ben Sparrow, when we recorded yesterday, said it best that like he immediately jumped on the Steve Harvey train again, because that was what everyone was thinking. That was the elephant in the room as soon as that mix-up happened, was the Miss Universe pageant that Steve screwed up. And so the fact that Kimmel was that fast on it and just kind of said, "Oh, I blame myself," or something like that. Like he was. I think that was a really fast reaction to him, and it wasn't like. Did you see Ryan Gosling's reaction to the whole mix-up? He was laughing. Oh, I loved it. Oh, because he knows it's like, oh gosh, this has
never happened.
What do we think about that situation in general?
I have an opinion on that.
Okay,
and two strong ones. One, I feel as though they should have just like cut to commercial and restarted, because. And this goes into my second point. I feel like it kind of takes away some of the attention from Moonlight. I was scrolling on Twitter today and I found like a really awesome quote Barry Jenkins said during his acceptance speech. Only I didn't hear it because like everyone was just so up in the air with the mix-up. And I don't know. You guys might have your own thoughts on that too. But I personally think that.
The other thing about that is I don't think they handled it incorrectly. I just think that the emotions around it, and if you were watching it with a group of people, it's not the show's fault that you didn't hear it. It was probably all of you guys reacting to, what?
Yeah.
Did that really just happen? And I think the fact that they didn't cut to commercial was like hey, should we cut to commercial? And go, no.
Well, and only two people know, too.
So
it's like a huge chain of command that people have to let someone else know. Then that person has to come out on stage, and when do you interrupt them?
But the thing is, though, this will give them more buzz next year, because people will think maybe a mix-up will happen again. This gave them more buzz than they already had. They already have millions of people watching, but this just added to it.
Their ratings were down this year, I think, right?
Were they?
So, I heard
So give them a kick in the ass.
So hopefully this will like maybe boost it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, my take on this is I am a little disappointed that some of the conversation has steered away from Moonlight actually winning, because if it were just handled correctly, we would be having more conversations like, oh, this incredible revolutionary film just won Best Picture. But I saw a tweet from one of my friends that was like, please steer the water cooler conversation from can you believe that screw up to I can't believe the gay black movie won.
Yeah, and that was I think that's the conversation that happened with Spotlight without the mess up was people didn't really know what that movie was, and when it went over Revenant, it's like instead of like can you believe like Revenant did one, people actually surprisingly, believe this or not, watch the movie.
Yeah.
Well, I loved Spotlight.
I loved it
too.
in
theaters.
It was great in theaters, and that was. But I think too is like that was. I don't know, because I think that was also the News's fault, because the News was trying to find any feud possible between the Moonlight and La La Land crew. Like they wanted some fight or whatnot in terms of like, oh, they weren't talking to each other after this or that. There was
quite the opposite, actually.
Yeah,
I know the thing is like Chazelle and Jenkins are good friends, and they talked afterwards.
They just did a Vanity Fair cover shoot together. They're just being all chummy.
Well, and also like leading up to the Oscars, they've done so many like critic viewings and showings together for like when they advertise for their Oscars. But like doing all that stuff, they all like bonded together.
Basically if they're both at a film festival, they just see each other either like a little bit or not. They make sure they make time
That's
to see
what
each
Barry
other.
Jenkins said during his speech. He was like, all these guys have been on the road with our crew since all the festival dates, and we really want to thank them. They've been awesome towards us. People just wanted to make Bad Blood, I think, but the people who were involved, it doesn't. Yeah, people can get along. Shockingly,
I'm actually, and we'll probably get into this, but I'm actually one of the few that I like both movies. I think both are pretty good.
We both are in that camp. Brandon is not.
I understand that. I feel like there is a small culture. I'm not going to say a large one. A small culture of people who think it's one or the other. And I like them both.
Well,
I think two different reasons. I think
like
that's both.
You're already setting yourself up for failure if you do that, because I got a different reaction from La La Land than I did from Moonlight, and I think they both impacted me in different ways, but in great ways. Because after seeing both those films, I was like, wow, this is. But when I saw Moonlight, I didn't think, well, this is a good movie. No, this was like it wrecked me, because I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, and we'll probably get into that when we talk about.
Oh yeah.
Yes, we will.
No, but I think they're like it's apples and oranges when we talk about La La Land and Moonlight, 'cause they're both trying to do completely different things.
Absolutely, I agree.
One's basically modern singing in the rain, and the other one's a gay black like urban film.
They're both modern singing in the rain.
Yep.
Before we move into the ceremony, I would just like to share a brief story from Oscar night that was really symbolic of just the craziness. I do an Oscar pool every year with my friends, and it came down to either La La Land or Moonlight winning Best Picture. and they called La La Land, and I got really cocky. I started making my own acceptance speech and calling everyone in the room my haters.
I got
And
something to say after that too.
Okay, yeah, and I was like, thank you to all my haters for getting me to where I am. And then Moonlight wins, and then I deflate, and I get clowned for the rest of the week. And it was just...
That was kind of the opposite of what happened with me, because with my Oscar ballot, because my Oscar ballot was weird. I should have put what all I thought was going to win, but I did a mixture of what I knew was going to win, like in terms of like the editing and whatnot, but also in terms of like I wanted Moonlight to win Best Picture. As much as I enjoy La La Land, I thought Moonlight deserves that Best Picture award. So when La La won, I was like, okay, I expected this. I was a bit disappointed. But then when the mix-up happened, and I that's all I heard. Like it was like La La won, and then I kind of zoned out. And then when I looked back at the TV, that's when Horowitz said, "Oh yeah, Moonlight won, by the way," and I just freaked.
Me and
I
my
went,
roommate freaked
"What?"
out because we were both rooting for. I actually saw Moonlight last semester while I was in theaters, and
Same.
It was one of the few movies where I walked out of thinking, man, if there's anything that's got a shot against La La Land, it's got to be this movie. But going along with what you were saying with like doing your the speech, I was on Cardinal Film Fights Twitter that night. Our director of promotions decided to get handed over to me, and we did a whole live tweet advertising for it. But like, I realized with our connection, we were like having a delay a little bit, so I would actually like tweet a lot, like sort of like type this tweet in and like wait till like tweet it like as soon as I heard it so I could get ahead of the curve. And so like when it came to Best Picture, I start typing in congratulations Moonlight, and as soon as they say La La Land, I was like, oh, and I like kind of put my phone down. I didn't delete the tweet, and I just kind of looked at my roommate, and he's actually a director of promotions for Cardinal Film Fights, and we're just like, wow, really? And then the mix-up happened. Picked up my phone, hit tweet right away.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why also I was so excited is because I was right. I was one of the only people in my close group of friends that was like, "There's no way it's going to win," but I was like, "It's going to be another Boyhood and another Revenant situation."
Even a couple hours before the ceremony at our producers' meeting, we were clowning you for thinking that.
Oh yeah, oh absolutely.
Well,
yeah.
and one thing I also predicted
but...
Moonlight to win as well as Damien Chazelle getting Best Director, and because one thing that's important about the Academy and their picks is Best Director is treated like a second Best Picture award. As much as like, yeah, you can say it literally says Best Director, so it's for the direction of the film, but like as a director's job, like you're in charge of the film, like that's your job, and so that a lot of people judge the Best Director as kind of like being a not as much publicity version of Best Picture. Best Picture is like the same thing, but it gets more headlines in the news, and people watch that more. And that's why people like Boyhood and Birdman, or Revenant and Spotlight, how both movies were given their dues in terms of how good they were. And that's why when Damien Chazelle won Best Director, I'm like, all right, so Moonlight's got this in the bag. Like, there's no way they're going to give it to both La La Land, which has happened in the past. I think Schindler's List, Spielberg won both director and picture, but when Chazelle won Best Director and then it went to La La Land for Best Picture, that was the biggest shock to me. Was not only was it La La Land versus Moonlight, but they won both awards. And I'm like, wow, this ain't gonna be good. And then who knows? Here we go.
No, yeah, I would say so. I mean, it's up to you now, Brandon.
All right, now we're gonna transition into actually talking about the brass tacks, the awards. What our favorite winners is what we're gonna start off with. I will start with my favorite winner. Stuart had my choice. He's going to talk about my choice. And so, courtesy to our guests, I'm going to say, on a similar theme, I'm extremely happy that Mahershala Ali won.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
I've been really happy with the Academy the past couple years because in the supporting actor category, last year and this year with Mark Rylance for Bridge of Spies, they've been awarding really great and subtle performances. Like these two roles aren't like over the top showboat acting. It's not.
You mean you didn't think Stallone deserved it last year?
I think I would have loved if Stallone won. I would have loved if Stallone won. He was on my ballot. He won the Golden Globe. I'm glad Mark Rylance won for the nature of his performance.
I'm surprised he won.
I would have preferred Stallone, but I'm happy that the Academy is awarding subtle acting because I think that's something that's lost on them a lot of the times. Like they even did that kind of this year in the lead actor category with Casey Affleck, because that's a very subtle performance. And I'm just extremely happy because Mahershala, like, even when he leaves the film after the first act, you could still kind of feel his ghost like over these characters.
That's the thing about Moonlight too, is that's one of the reasons why if you out there have not seen Moonlight, you should watch Moonlight, because one of the best things that Moonlight shows you is that just because they don't have more than like 10 or 15 minutes of screen time doesn't mean they're not important to the story.
Going along with yours, the Academy really decides best supporting actor and actress based on one scene. That is the main premise of best supporting actor and actress, is like, who isn't the lead but has a kick butt scene.
And the scene they picked for Ali is the one that wrecked me in theaters. That was the one that shook my core.
The one at dinner, right?
Absolutely.
Yes. Like it was.
Same with like the scene with they showed Viola Davis with her scene. I think
is it the one where she had snot in her face?
It was leading up to that. It was leading up to it, and I thought they were gonna show all the way through, because I also saw Fences, and like the moment they started like the clip of her scene, I thought, this is a little bit early because she doesn't really like explode into her full capacity until later. But then it cut right before she got to the snot scene. I thought, oh man, that's a missed opportunity.
I think what was interesting, I don't know if it's a real fact or truth or not, but I saw that like Mahershala Ali is one of the first Muslim actors.
The very first Muslim actor.
And he's
that
also
is confirmed?
He's also one of the first African American actors in a long time to get an award without playing a slave or some kind of like.
Interesting. I didn't think
like
about that.
He was
a
competent black man.
It's like I can't think of anything in the last few years where if. Like, did Chiwetel win for 12 years? I don't remember if he did or not, but I know
Chiwetel did not win. Daniel Day-Lewis won that year.
Oh, okay. I was just wondering because it is kind of interesting, the fact that not only is he the first Muslim actor to win, but
I have to fact check that.
But he also is one of the first, I think, African American actors in at least the last decade to win a Best Actor award of some kind without playing a slave or like in a race like fueled kind of story.
Were we surprised the Globes didn't pick Ali? Or like, cause I don't
know.
know.
Pick again.
They picked Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Oh,
I did.
yeah.
I've not seen Nocturnal Animals. I was watching this and I was thinking, really?
And that's when I went, oh my gosh, Kick-Ass just won an award. He left for a while and he just came back, and he apparently he's good in Nocturnal Animals because he got an award.
Quick fact check on the Chiwetel Ejiofor 12 Years a Slave lead actor. Matthew McConaughey won that year.
Oh, Dallas Buyers Club.
Yeah, that's a decision I disagree with.
Okay,
but
we're talking about this Oscars. I was just curious as to whether or not.
I just need to fact check that because when I said Davis,
cool.
I think Aaron Taylor Johnson should have been nominated over Michael Shannon for our Nocturnal Animals.
Did you see Nocturnal Animals?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Aaron Taylor Johnson played the villain.
Nice.
He just kind of walked around and was really creepy. There's one scene where he's naked on his porch using a toilet.
Oh.
Interesting. Well, I need to watch Nocturnal Animals.
It's a good movie. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's one of the few as well.
All right, is it your turn, Brandon, to talk about your best pick, or is
it's Stuart's turn?
So you just did. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Now that's where I get to. Sorry, I stole your pick, but I want to talk about Moonlight winning Best Picture.
Woo.
Yeah.
I mean, let me just say this: a gay black film won Best Picture.
Yes.
Like, could we have imagined this last year or like the year before? I mean, how? Like, this is amazing. It's something that I hope.
I was gonna say this is the weirdest thing because I can't imagine it. I think Moonlight, in terms of its content, is very riding the line of Oscar bait, but it's done so well that it's not. It's a legit like great film. I think it's the in between where it could have been Oscar bait, but it handles its subject matter with such intensity and such just authenticity. I think it's a great film
Absolutely.
by itself.
And like storytelling besides, it's impeccable, but like even the cinematography, the writing, and the acting, everything is just what you would imagine to be the best picture, to have everything on point with this movie. Moonlight had that. I mean, we can spend a whole hour talking about like the three actors that played Chiron in the three chapters. They all, let me just say this, like they all had to be such professional actors to like maintain that certain tone and personality that, and I'll say this, when I watched it, it was very present that, I mean, this was the same kid that we just saw like 15 minutes ago.
Did you know that?
And that is brilliant.
Do you know how they handled that situation too? They apparently took each actor and just gave them the script, and they didn't let them talk to any of them.
Is that none of the actors who played
Chiron their own
met.
interpretations of Chiron, and then that's even more amazing.
Yeah,
the
fact that they still kind of ended up.
I don't think they
like,
talked to each other for the first time until after production had wrapped. Like that was insane.
Like Act 3 Chiron, I was really like thrown off at first, like whoa, but then he did like this gesture with his head. He did this weird head tilt, and it reminded me of when he was a teenager, and I said that's the same man.
Oh yeah, and this is besides acting, just the subtleties Barry Jenkins put in this movie.
Absolutely.
There's the opening scene, and this kind of goes back to like kids that get like bullied out there. If you're like playing sports, and there's a little game kids like to play called Smear the Queer. You ever guys played that when you're in middle school?
Yeah,
where
it's weird how a lot of people younger than us don't know that, and that's how like it makes sense, but it's weird that like it's gotten to the point now that when we bring it up, we get blank stares.
It's so like it was so institutionalized.
Well, so in the beginning of this movie, do you guys remember the scene when it's like they're all playing ball, and you can tell what game they're playing if you know what game they're playing. I knew right away they're playing Smear the Queer, and then they all did the thing when they all kick the ball towards him, and it's like, like. Oh my gosh, like that happens to kids that like struggle with that in their early childhood, and it's like just to like have that very subtle thing that if you don't know it, it's still a good indicator that it doesn't like bond well with kids around him, that there's something different about this kid. But like having that extra background information, I was like hands on my head in the theater, like what the heck? Like right out of the gate, like Barry Jenkins just knows how to direct this film.
And I don't know if you need to fact check this too, Brandon, but I think it wasn't until they filmed that scene that somebody told Jenkins about Smear the Queer, and he's like, is that what that's called? Like, that was not what it was called when he was a kid.
That's true. I remember that.
It's changed, like, and that's the thing, too, is, like, it's so institutionalized. There are different names in different cultures and communities that use that. It's insane.
I remember, like
good
playing that game by that name when I was on the middle school wrestling team. Like, the coach instructed us to play that to, like, help us with our grappling.
For teamwork purposes.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Just subtle things like that just put that movie, like, so far ahead. It's amazing.
I absolutely agree. Like when I walked out of the theater for Moonlight, I was thinking about benchmark 21st century films, and let's say There Will Be Blood and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, in my opinion, are the most definitive benchmarks of the first decade of the 21st century. They're not necessarily my favorite films of the first decade of the 21st century, but I think they're like the definitive signpost films. I think so far this decade, the signpost films are Her and Moonlight.
I can agree with that.
I can see those. I can understand both those choices. I love both those movies. So
yeah, I don't disagree with you. Like, and definitely like
You're
acting styles and directing styles and writing, I think. Definitely for sure. You see that a lot in Moonlight and Her.
Her completely beside the point. Watch Her if you haven't.
Oh, Spike Jonze does such a great job.
People like give that movie a bad rap because it's like, well, the dude's like dating his cell phone. I'm
it's a super awkward and sometimes creepy thing
to
think about, but it's so worth it because it feels so real.
Absolutely.
And it feels in like the future tone doesn't feel like it's cyberpunky or anyway, or like if it's like over the top. It feels really well done.
I think the only other film that you could argue as another this decade benchmark is Whiplash.
Oh, yeah.
It's like Whiplash, Her, and Moonlight are our benchmark films for this decade.
Is that a benchmark for like this decade or just like Damien Chazelle? Like, I don't
know. Like I would put Birdman in there just because I love Birdman.
I think that's what was it? Children of Lamb or Children of... It was one with
Children of Men.
Children of
Men.
Men.
Alfonso Cuarón?
I think so. Yeah, the one with
Michael Caine.
Not Michael Caine. It was like who? I can't remember, but there was like the same cinematographer that did also work.
That
for
was
Alejandro
Children of God, and that's another Iñárritu film.
Yeah.
But it's like it has that same like direct the cinematography style with like the camera like doing all longer.
Oh no! That is Children of Men.
Okay,
it's Clavone.
Children's in the title or something.
There's children.
Yeah, children something.
Yeah. So yeah, I would argue Whiplash is a benchmark film just because I just related to a lot of it.
Same.
But we're getting off topic.
Yes, we should probably get back to
Logan, what's your favorite pick of the night?
Well, I had a tie, but since Stuart already talked about what one of my ties is going to be, I think I'll just pick the Oscar that Arrival won, because it doesn't matter which Oscar Arrival won. Arrival won an Oscar, and that's what matters. Arrival is my favorite film of last year, and I didn't expect it to win anything. Like I on my Oscar ballot, I kind of put it as like hopefully it wins this or whatnot. But the fact that it got an Oscar at least gets some recognition. Like I thought it was going to win Best Adapted Screenplay, but then I remembered that Moonlight was in there too, and I was like, yeah, it probably was going to take that as well.
I had it for winning both sound awards, and I'm surprised it didn't.
Hacksaw Ridge has great sound though. Like that's the first. I mean, it's a great. it made sense. Thankfully, I watched Hacksaw Ridge and Manchester by the Sea the day the Oscars were happening, so I had those both fresh in my mind. And
What a roller coaster of emotions you were on.
it was an interesting double feature. But no, I just wanted Arrival to win something, and the fact that they got an Oscar is nice. It's not the kind of Oscar where people are like, ooh, I want to go see Arrival. I think, well, the fact that Arrival just passed, I think, 100 million domestically like last week, and the fact that it won an Oscar, I think that'll be enough for people to kind of pay a little bit more attention if that comes up later on. But I'm just glad it won.
In my opinion, it won the right Oscar. Yes. It won sound editing. And for those of you at home who don't know what that is, sound editing is the creation of sound for film. Sound mixing is blending all the sounds together into the actual listening experience.
Two very different tasks.
And Villeneuve's films are just phenomenal when it comes to...
They're great sounding films. Like Sicario has some of the best gun sounds I've ever heard in a movie. But for sound editing wise in Arrival, why I think it deserved it is because they had to create an entire alien language that made cognizant sense.
All the noises they make for those aliens is so terrifying and so alien that it's ridiculous. Like, I want to know how they make those sounds because it just doesn't sound right, and that's kind of what's amazing about it. I think it deserved it.
It is really an incredible piece.
It is.
Still haven't seen it.
Design.
It was, one of the reasons why I didn't expect you to win much is because it was one heck of a slate. La La Land was going to take a lot of that. Moonlight was going to take a lot of it. I mean, I feel like in terms of the hierarchy, it was going to be Moonlight was going to win Best Picture, but if that wasn't going to, it's going to be La La Land. If that wasn't going to get it, Manchester probably was going to get it, and if Manchester didn't get it, then Arrival. Probably. And that was kind of what I felt like. It's like Manchester got a lot of buzz, La La Land got a lot of buzz, Moonlight got a lot of buzz, but Arrival came out in November, got a lot of great reviews, but didn't get incredible buzz
Oscar
like the other
buzz.
ones. So the fact that it got some recognition was enough for me. So I think that was my best.
Kind of like touching on when you were talking about La La Land and like the Sound Awards. I knew La La Land had a lot of discrepancy sound mixing, just like by having like an ear for that kind of stuff. I was listening to Another Day of Sun really points it out right out of the way too, with like the different sound effects they were using with the people walking in the streets and then the music and then like people singing. I heard a lot of like small little discrepancies in the theater I was in, just with the balance of mixes. And then I looked that up. I'm like, La La Land sound mixing, and there were a lot of reviews came up. It's like, yeah, it's got a couple issues on that. So
the thing is, like those are the problems I really have with like Whiplash and La La Land. Are like there are syncing problems in terms of like the audio to the visuals every now and again, especially when it comes to the music. And like and like there's one part where it's Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling are walking together and they're talking like in front of a movie set and whatnot. And if you watch close enough, you can tell they're not really miming the words they're talking or like. And so like there were some, and that's like when it comes to Chazelle's films, those are like my nitpicks usually. Are just like they're not as tight as they could be, but they're tight enough.
That's my big problem
musician,
too.
Yeah, for a musician too.
Yeah, it's kind of noticeable in Whiplash, like especially when there's when they're playing the piano, because I'm a pianist, so I always watch the piano in movies whenever someone's playing to see how close it was. La La Land got it okay. Well, Ryan Gosling is a pianist, but Whiplash was kind of off. Actually, Chazelle's first film, I forget the name of it, but I've seen it. It stars Elijah Wood, and he's supposed to play a really incredibly difficult concerto in memory of like, his music instructor.
That actually isn't his first film. That's one of his films that he wrote. His first film was like a black and white film right out of NYU or like the college he went to. He wrote Grand Piano, but he didn't direct.
I thought he had directed Grand Piano.
I thought he did too, but I looked it up the other day because I was curious, and no, that's he just wrote it. He also apparently had some work on 10 Cloverfield Lane, apparently.
Did he?
I did not know that.
Well, the guy that wrote Nightcrawler, he had some rewrites on Rogue One, and he's done some rewrites all across the board for big films and whatnot. Tony Gilroy.
Well, everybody rewrote Rogue One.
Wait, no, let's not get into that.
Let's not talk about Rogue One. It didn't win any Oscars. Let's talk about our least favorite wins. Least favorite wins. It's always disappointment at Oscar season, so let's just get into it. I'm going to start with the obvious, Suicide Squad for makeup.
Tragedy.
Okay, Killer Croc was cool. Killer Croc in the right lighting looked cool, I should say. When Killer Croc had his hoodie on and he was running around the sewers, he looked all right and he looked creepy.
It was a bold choice to go practical for him.
Yes.
Especially with modern, especially with the video games when it comes to the Arkham games and they make him look like basically a scaly Hulk. I assume that was what they were going to go for, especially with Adewale, but the fact that they just went like nearly 90s-esque costuming when it came to Killer Croc was kind of ridiculous.
Can we talk about the Joker? Like, The Joker beat Star Trek. Really?
That's the thing too. That really bothered me was that like Suicide Squad's costuming and hairstyling had nothing compared to Beyond. Beyond is the best Star Trek remake film that we've gotten so far,
I agree.
and the just the fact that chick who opens up the back of her head, like halfway through the film because she's holding like the MacGuffin thing or whatever, and just like
And that's practical.
it's incredible how much
I saw a Tumblr post that was something like, it's one of some of the most complex integration of prosthetic and LED that's ever been in any film, and that's like revolutionary to the industry of sci-fi makeup.
Like the costumes, like excluding the Joker, like Deadshot looks fine. Harley Quinn looks like a Harley Quinn look. Like
El
it's
Diablo
fun enough.
looked cool.
El Diablo looked cool too,
Yeah.
and like the Enchantress was fine. Especially like there are a lot of goofy costumes for all those characters in the comics, and the fact that they could get kind of character costumes that was cool. But then you have the weird globby monster things that are kind of practical, but not really. Like the no name
faceless army.
Yeah,
trope,
yeah.
like it's in every
and you
movie.
have the Enchantress's brother.
Oh, that was
God.
terrible.
That's
He looked
CG,
like-
but like
He
that's
looked like one of the villains from the CG Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie.
Oh,
that might
yes.
be too obscure of a reference.
And in my opinion, I mean, just like in terms of, nah, that's not. But I'd say Out of the Shadows, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows that came out last year or 2 years ago, had better CG and better hair and makeup than
Yeah,
than
I
Suicide
would
Squad
agree
did.
with
Like,
that too.
That was bizarre. And that was a weird category though. Like if you saw the 3 categories, one of those things was not like the other, and it was
Yeah.
the first one, which is that foreign film that like
It's like Ove.
yeah. And I was like,
Yeah.
why is there nothing else in here? There had to be other stuff that kind of like, especially Marvel.
This was
films and
hairstyling
whatnot.
and makeup that Suicide Squad won, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Because I know Fantastic Beast won Best Costuming, which I actually think was well deserved, but kind of.
That's
I
the
mean,
first Oscar Harry Potter
yeah.
films won.
That's not hilarious. That's just kind of surprising. I think that's another one of those series that has made $1 billion, yet you realize hasn't made any award
Hey,
recognition as
you
much.
know what else hasn't won an Oscar? The Marvel Universe. You want to know what has? DCEU.
DC, yeah, Marvel has
Who would
0 Oscars.
have thought
DC
that
has
DC
one.
has now have an Oscar over now the Marvel Cinematic
The
Universe?
DC Universe won an Oscar before Joaquin Phoenix did.
Wow. That's
wow,
true.
that's oh my god, that's
Oh,
so
man.
true. Ah,
Which is really frustrating.
that is
Anyways,
kind of frustrating.
Stuart, what's your least favorite win of the night?
So I talked about this during your guys' actual show, which people should go see their actual show.
Yeah.
Good.
It's up
Um,
now.
That's a shameless plug, but it's worth
Yeah, it's worth it. It's on it gets on your guys' own channel. So
it. Yeah,
anyway,
it's
I,
good.
I just want to talk about best original song. Now there are a lot of things that I got wrong that I thought, okay, that's deserved, and everything else I thought I pretty much got right. Not boasting, but best original song. First off, we can talk about the merits of having La La Land 2 nominations, but when it won City of Stars, I thought, what a waste. I mean, whichever song you think should have won. I mean, personally, I think it should have been the audition, The Fools Who Dreamed. I loved that scene. I thought some people kind of criticized it that they don't know like really where it's coming from, other than she's just like pulling that out, which I thought was a reflection of her great acting, and that's a writing thing, not so much an Emma Stone acting thing. But on to her acting, I thought it was brilliant. I thought she sang very well. It was one of the moments where they stopped sounding like real people in the soundtrack, which they're not professionals. But in this one, she like puts an effort into it. Like she really does do a good job. She hits all the notes very well. The score is beautiful. The cinematography around the song I thought was amazing. And City of Stars is just I don't know. It's just plain.
I don't know. Well, we might get into more when I talk about my snubs in terms of those songs, but I don't know why they didn't like either Someone in the Crowd or Another Day of Sun. Those 2 songs are like
Those songs are really good too.
those are
Yeah.
the perfect, like Another Day of Sun was the perfect way to start that musical, because it seemed like people who hate or love that film are kind of like, that's if you're gonna start this musical off, you start like
That's a
Another
very
Day of Sun.
I love
classic
Another Day of
1930s
Sun.
intro,
They basically, and all the songs in La La Land pretty much have the same like theme of we're fools but we're
Yeah.
also dreamers, and that's
thematic
cool. And-
material of that stuff. I mean, I'm a music major, so
Mm-hmm.
surprise. But so when I watched, I wanted this movie to do very well, and like I said, I'm one of the few that like both Moonlight and La La Land. But when I watched this movie, I thought the music was brilliant. I do think that La La Land deserved best original score for sure. But when I saw the original nominations and I saw that La La Land won 2, first off, I don't think it should have won 2. I thought Audition or Another Day of Sun. One of the 2 should have had the nomination spot, but because it was Audition or City of Stars, I thought, okay, well, it should be Audition. That's just the one that carries the most emotional weight. The Academy's not always like picking based on just musical material, but what's the most effective song of the movie. And that one Audition takes the cake. City of Stars, I said this on the show, doesn't really do anything for me in context of the plot. I don't know what they're singing about, why they're singing about it. And we can talk about other things of songs that should have been.
I will say really quickly on the topic of City of Stars, Ryan Gosling's singing is miserable.
I think the thing that I dislike about City of Stars the most is a lot of the great composition and a lot of the great stuff that makes Another Day of Sun, A Lovely Night, and Someone in the Crowd so great. They have to strip that down for Ryan Gosling and make it kind of minimal, and and that relies on him as a singer. And as a singer, he's not fantastic.
I don't think he's even
Here's
good.
the thing, though, guys. I think that was intentional for him to like not be a professional singer. I think this was
That's fine.
I think
No,
this
I
was
just think-
really about like real people with real dreams that just happen to be spontaneously singing. It's like Enchanted with that one guy saying, "Why are we all singing here?" If this was in that universe, I mean, people would probably do that. But
I sort of disagree with that point because I'm as a fan of musicals, I sort of talked about this on last week's podcast, but there are plenty of musicals that are about regular people or even people trying to make it in Hollywood, and their songs are sung by really talented singers. So I'm willing to suspend my disbelief that this person would be an incredible singer and dancer. Like, they probably wouldn't be, but I just found it honestly kind of distracting, his singing from the actual song, because I was just kind of thinking about how I wasn't enjoying what I was hearing from his vocals.
Well, another thing too is like it's the follow up to A Lovely Night, which is basically their interpretation of Gene Kelly as best as they can do with those two, because neither of them are as crazy as Gene Kelly was when it comes to choreography. And instead of really doing anything, you can't one up a What a Lovely Night, so they just like double down with like kind of a basic Ryan singing on a pier, and it's funny when he's like dancing with the one woman, and then the guy gets mad because that's his wife, and
it didn't make sense.
little things.
I thought it didn't.
But it's only like, and it also is just like 30 seconds long. It's not the whole song. But if it is the whole song, it doesn't feel like a whole song. It just kind of,
but
it
that
happens
like a
and
for an
sketch.
Oscar,
and that's ridiculous.
and it won an Oscar.
And I don't really know why, because I feel like. Because a lot of the times it feels like the Oscars nominate stuff, surprise, surprise, because of public popularity. That's why Can't Stop the Feeling got a nomination, because it's Justin Timberlake.
So you could get Justin Timberlake to come to the Oscars. That's why.
And Another Day of Sun is the perfect song to like get people pumped up and whatnot, and just start off.
Wouldn't that have been a great opening number?
That's another thing. I'll
They
talk
already
about
did that with Golden Globes.
Yeah, but that was terrible.
Well, and I also thought that the Academy kind of sort of try not to steer off base too much, but I think the Academy, taking lessons from the Golden Globes, I thought the Golden Globes was just a huge like La La Land show. That's all the thing. That's all of it was, and so I think the Academy kind of picked up on that, and people weren't really necessarily like, okay, other films came out this year too.
The Golden Globes are also like one step away from being jokes. They're at that point. I mean, it's just they're a bunch of people just drinking and having a good time with the Hollywood Foreign Press.
Jack Nicholson, I took a value,
and it's just like and it's just Yeah, and that's the thing too, and it says something even more. And I loved the medley that John Legend did about City Stars.
I did too.
I think they did a really good job. But it shows you something when they don't even let Ryan or Emma sing those songs, and they give it to the best singer out of the entire film.
Yes.
Both those two songs. And I think that says a lot in terms of either Ryan says, I don't really want to sing this right now, or we don't know if we really want you to sing it in live, we'll give it to John. Like, that's another thing.
Yeah,
So
agree to disagree on whether it aided the movie, but
Yes.
I do agree with that point where obviously if they have to have John Legend sing it in the Oscars,
I
is that
agree
really a
with your point,
song?
absolutely.
Is
I
it
mean,
yeah.
I mean, John Legend can sing anything to me, and I'll be fine.
John Legend should have been the lead of La La Land, I think.
That would have been interesting.
I'm okay with
I'd
that.
watch an alternate universe
yeah.
version of that.
All right, let's pass it to Logan for his snub.
For snub,
I'm sorry, for your least favorite winner.
I guess for least favorite winner, I'd have to give it to Emma Stone for Best Leading Actress.
Really?
I
You're
think-
opening up the Takes Factory.
No, here's the thing: is like Emma Stone I think she does a great job in La La Land, but I also think she's playing herself.
I don't think she was the rightful
think,
winner.
I think
Who was?
who do you think the rightful winner was?
Isabelle Huppert.
I need to see Elle. I love
Incredible.
I love Verhoeven.
Loved
I've heard great. She was the black horse of the run. If Stone didn't win, I assume she would have won. But I honestly would have picked Portman. The little bit I saw of her as Jackie automatically sold me on her dedication to the historical Kenny. It's insane to see her do Jackie Kennedy nearly perfect. It's ridiculous how much effort Portman puts into it. And there's another thing too, is like I haven't seen the movie all the way through. I've just seen snippets, but every snippet I see, if there's a side-by-side clip to Jackie, it freaks me out. I need to watch the video because if it's just audio, sometimes I can't tell the difference between
Kind of
the two.
ashamed to say I haven't seen too many films like with the best actress nominees.
No,
I mean,
those...
from what I've heard publicity-wise, I agree with you. I think from what I was thinking of who would, because I knew it was going to go to Emma Stone just based on like the Globes, the SAGs. Like statistically, it was going to go to Emma Stone. There was no other way it was.
It's just not like she does a horrible job. It's just it wasn't hard for her to really get into character. She had to be an up and coming actress having a hard time getting jobs. That was her at one point in her life. She can go back to that. But with Jackie Kennedy, I mean, just Portman has been out of the limelight in a long time. She's playing a historical figure that is super important in terms of post JFK assassination because it is Jackie Kennedy. We haven't really seen anything about her in terms of basically you hear that she was crazy at one point maybe, and it's like they had fights with John or whatnot. But I feel like, and there's other thing. I had a conversation with somebody who was like, "You don't think Emma Stone is going to win?" And I lost that in my ballot because I put Jackie, and I said she's playing a historical figure that is important to American culture, and she also is putting her all into it. She basically Daniel Day-Lewis'd Jackie as much
really
as she
did.
could. And it was and I think she probably should have won it. I know a lot of people, because I think a day or two before the Oscars it was announced that she wasn't going to be there due to pregnancy, and people thought, oh, maybe that's because she's not going to win an Oscar. That might have been why, but I really wish she would have gotten it because that would have been really cool.
Really quickly before we move on to snubs, I'll just briefly make my case for Isabelle Huppert. I thought that her character and the situation that her character was put in is something that I've never really seen in film. Because for those of you who haven't seen Elle, I talked about it briefly on the podcast last week, but it is about a woman who is sexually assaulted in her own home. And
that's what I thought it was, yeah.
Yes.
It's been a while since I've heard the premise.
And from there on out, it's a dark comedy. It's about her like finding out who her assailant is. It's about her navigating the world of her job. It's about her dealing with her parents. And she just inhabits this really twisted mind frame with this insanely dark past and this character who makes these really unconventional, I'll say, choices in her life. Like, it's the least stereotypical portrayal of victimhood that I've ever seen in a film, and I think that speaks leagues that she was able to bring such a complex and never before seen character that we usually don't think of when we think of people who have been through that sort of thing. So yes. Now,
I was going to say,
sorry.
just to add to that, too, and the reason why I was super excited is I want to see Elle when that comes out in one time. And the fact that I heard that's a black comedy, now I'm even more excited to see it because in case you don't know, viewers, which is fine if you don't, the person who directed Elle is the same guy who did Starship Troopers,
I love
RoboCop,
Starship Troopers.
and Showgirls.
Lord.
Paul Verhoeven is a master
He's
when
a
it
genius.
comes to making satire, black comedy. And so the fact that he did a black comedy about a sexual assault and it works shows how well he is at his craft, and I'm so excited to watch it.
It's incredible. And finally, I'm going to move us a bit more quickly because boy do we like talking. I'm going to move us a bit more quickly through this final category, but we are going to talk about snubs, people that we think should have been nominated but weren't. I will start off the conversation. I believe that John Goodman should have been nominated for 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Good role.
Yes, John Goodman.
What do you put him in? Supporting or lead?
I would put him in lead actor.
Ooh.
Yeah, I would see that. But who would you replace with him?
Ryan Gosling.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. I think more realistically, you would have gotten rid of Vigo for Captain Fantastic.
Yes, in a real
that,
practical setting, Viggo Mortensen wouldn't have gotten nominated.
But personally, you would have.
For me, I would have gotten rid of Ryan Gosling.
that
Apologies
makes
for hitting
sense.
the microphone, folks. Yes, I think that John Goodman, in 10 Cloverfield Lane, he plays a man who is keeping two people in his cellar because he claims that the apocalypse has gone down outside and I'm going to be keeping you safe through the nuclear wasteland.
Do you want to do spoilers?
It's
Okay.
it's nearly been a year since it's been out,
It's-
but that's up to you. I mean,
I've seen the
I
movie
will
too.
say that things are not what they seem, and that's as far as I will go.
Okay.
But his villainy and his subtlety and his twisted mind frame is just really brilliantly portrayed. He's a really, really excellent horror villain in this film. He's really
agree with
dark. he has like a certain geniality and friendliness to him. Like he feels like your neighbor. Like he kind of thinks a few twisted things, but he's also like weirdly genial and polite to these people. And that's what I think makes him such an effective villain when he does have to do villainous things, because the movie needs conflict, is that we're uneasy, but we've been kind of comforted by the world he's created in the cellar just through the film. Like
definitely.
as we're sitting in there, we're like, okay, I feel relatively safe while we sit in here. John Goodman makes me uneasy. Like we're in Mary Elizabeth Winstead's shoes. And so when he does have to advance the plot, I think it's incredibly effective. I think John Goodman carried that movie, and they should have considered him, but it was genre bias.
I agree with everything you said. Yeah, definitely.
Pretty much.
Because there's certainly a point where like immediately he is the villain, and then there's like that's one of the first movies where like every movie does this, where like whoever we see as the obvious villain tries to do a switch, and they don't always do a great job of being convincing of that. And I think this movie was brilliant of that. Whatever, like what you said, when things aren't exactly the way they seem, and it's almost like he comes back to the rescue again, and we kind of like feel safe with him for a while, and then another switch happens.
It's super interesting because if you watch the trailer for 10 Cloverfield Lane, you can get a good sense of what his character is going to be like for pretty much the entire film.
Yeah.
But what sells the character, and why I completely understand why Brandon put him out there, it's the subtleties and the different things they do with his character as the film goes on that makes him much more memorable. There is a niceness to him that that actually feels genuine at times, and that's also scary because you know that he is somewhat crazy in a lot of ways. And I think Goodman does a great job with that for a great actor like himself. I don't think I've seen him in a role like that in a long time, if ever. So
he's never been even nominated for an Oscar, which is a crime.
That is a crime. And so I think if that's the case, then whenever he does get an Oscar, he'll either probably get it because of just for being an actor for so long, or because it's such a good performance.
Yes. All right, Stuart.
All right, guys. I got to talk about Sing Street.
Ooh, love that film.
So I'm glad you guys both have seen it, but to our viewers who may have not, this film is an independent film filmed in Dublin, Ireland by a director named John Carney, who also did the movie Begin Again and Once. This is a beautiful film. It takes place in 1985 Ireland, and basically like the premise of it is this kid who's living in a broken home right now gets transferred to like a pretty strict religious school, which I have experienced doing that, so that kind of hit home with me right there. And to kind of impress this girl that he sees one day, he decides to make a band, like on the fly. Right? This seems like a pretty stereotypical movie that we've seen maybe like 2 or 3 times, but that's definitely done before and it gotten big. But this movie just does like, I don't know if the right words are to say like a whole other take of it, or it's just the nuances in this film, how much you care for all these characters and their personalities. Like it was a crime that like it didn't get nominated for like any of the other awards, such as like Best Picture, Best Screenplay. Jack Rayner, who plays the lead's older brother, he totally deserved like some like Best Supporting Actor nomination, at least a nomination.
Which is super surprising, because that's the creepy Australian boyfriend from Transformers 4.
Right? Yeah.
Whoa.
He says like the Romeo and Juliet clause.
He brings it back. Yeah, he brings back his cred in Sing Street, and that is a good pick, because I mean, there's a lot of snuffs, and I'll try to get through it when it gets to my turn. But one of the snuffs I give it is the original song.
Oh yeah.
Drive It Like You Stole It should have gotten one of the spots.
Yes.
That is fantastic. Actually, any of the songs would be picked, like the first song they write together, and just the most amazing part about Sing Street is that when I went into it, I thought it was going to be a jukebox musical, and it was just going to be music I've heard before that I liked. But the best part about it is that they make 80s songs that sound like they were made in the 80s by kids, and they're so well done.
And they like fit into bands you already know, which
Absolutely.
I think, because like the first song, I think they made it to be a Duran Duran song. Like, okay, this is a Duran Duran song, and then they had a Smith song, and they had a Hall & Oates song. Drive It Like You Stole It is the Hall & Oates song. Like my mom and I, when we were watching it, we were just like, okay, what 80s band are they ripping off? I don't want to say rip off. What 80s band are they inspired by for this one?
She Lifts Me Up is such a good song.
Yes.
That's the second one they put together.
Up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love Up.
She
That
lifts me
is I personally like that almost more than Drive It Like You Stole It, just because that is like if you think of Audition from La La Land as like the emotional piece of the movie, I think Up is like the ultimate, like, here's kind of the tone of the entire movie, and here's a guy singing about it. And I just love it. There's John Carney's a phenomenal director who needs more cred that he's getting, and I can't wait to see what he does next. Surely it's going to be a musical since he does a lot of musicals, but I'm excited to see like what he does. I think the biggest crime, just to wrap this up real quick from my end, I think the biggest crime here is just the lack of advertising for this film. It was such a crime. I mean, some people still have not heard of this film. I went ahead and bought it immediately the day it came out, and I've showed it to people nonstop. And you cannot show it to somebody and like them not like it.
The weirdest thing was,
genius.
when I was over here, I was in Muncie for the summer, and I saw Sing Street in theaters. It was at the AMC for like 2 weeks,
Awesome.
and it was the same weekend that apparently they got Swiss Army Man, so I kind of had to choose. And I
remember that, yeah.
like Once a lot, and I think Begin Again's a fun movie to watch. So I was like, I think Sing Street, and I love the '80s. I love synth pop. I love that kind of hair metal. Pretty much anything kind of '80s I can listen to, and so I saw Sing Street, loved it. My siblings came up for a weekend. I took them to go see it. They showed it to my parents. My parents bought the film, showed it to my grandparents. They didn't love it as much, but that's okay because my family watched it and loved it, and it's on Netflix right now. If you've got Netflix, watch Sing Street. It's absolutely worth it, and I would have loved to have seen those Irish kids play any of those songs, except
At
for
the
Brown
Oscars.
Shoes. But yeah, at the
You
Oscars,
like Brown Shoes?
Brown Shoes is okay.
It's the worst
yeah.
one.
Brown
I
Shoes
think.
actually sounds
Yeah.
like okay, kids wrote this, but like
Yeah,
everything else is
definitely.
like
I think it's like the hero winning, but I don't know.
I mean, he does.
And finally, Logan Sowash.
There are a lot of snubs, and I had a few, but I'll start with the first one that I haven't seen yet, but I know it should have probably gotten for Best Foreign Film, The Handmaiden. The Handmaiden should have probably been nominated for Best Foreign Film because every time I talk to somebody about that isn't in my friends group or out there, it's like, what's one of your favorite films of last year? The Handmaiden kept coming up. Yeah,
That's me. I love The Handmaiden.
The
Watch
Handmaiden
it.
does this. Is just incredible. It's the guy that directed Old Boy, right?
It's better than Old Boy, yes.
I love Old Boy, and the fact that it's the same director. The film looks fantastic if you look at the trailer. It deals with some really interesting topics and whatnot. And,
all I'll say is that it is a psychosexual drama.
and that is
That's about all I can say.
And I understand that it wasn't dealing with anything in terms of like immigration or anything that was actually really important in terms of political standards. But I think The Handmaiden is such a well put together film that it should have been nominated. For Best Original Song, of course, Sing Street. I think Drive It Like You Stole or Lit or Up should have gotten the nomination. For Moana, You're Welcome. I think You're Welcome should have gotten nominated. I know Shiny.
Yeah.
I know you picked Shiny because
picked
you're a
Shiny.
David Bowie
I'm a
fan,
David
and
Bowie freak.
Shiny is a
And
David Bowie
I love
fan
Jermaine
song.
Clement. I love
he's
Live and
fantastic.
Yes.
But I think You're Welcome has what makes Lynn such a great songwriter. They basically said, let's make the Genie song from Aladdin, but make it Lynn's style and Polynesian.
And by the way, Dwayne The Rock Johnson singing.
Yeah,
it.
and that's another thing too. I wanted to get nominated just to see Dwayne The Rock Johnson sing it at the Oscars, but that didn't happen.
He gave a short snippet.
Audition, I think was a fine choice, but I think they should have replaced City of Stars with Another Day of Sun. I think that's a much better song in a lot of ways. In terms of anything else, one I think you didn't say it, and I was surprised. The Adult Chiron for Best Actor.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard.
It is hard, but the thing is though, is
Do
like
you give him supporting actor?
no,
or
I
like...
give him. I think I should give him lead because
Okay.
I'm sorry. Finish your.
No, it's
take.
okay. Here's the thing, and I'm not finished yet too, but I just want to get to this. One of the reasons why I like Ryan Gosling as an actor is because he's one of the kind of actors where if you look at his face, you know exactly what he's thinking. The Adult Chiron in Moonlight, you can see he is seeing paragraphs and paragraphs of what he's thinking. You see every single thing he's thinking about.
Absolutely.
In there's one scene where he's talking to a friend, and he might want to be more than just friends with this guy. And when it seems like that might not be a case, and they might just stay friends, you see his attitude change. You see how he's such a great actor, and I want him to get in more.
He may have
things.
said like 20 words in that act.
Yes, but and he deserves it because just like Marshall Ali, he's barely in the film, but he makes an impression, and he is Chiron.
What I will say is that I think one of the Chirons should have gotten nominated, but I think Teenage Chiron should have been nominated over Adult Chiron.
Teenage Chiron definitely has an Oscar moment that I
Yeah.
think would work.
He has his Oscar moment, but I think he's sort of the embodiment of every facet of the
switch.
character.
You feel
I
like
think
he
he has
kind
the
of
hardest
evolved.
job.
Yeah,
I think he has the hardest job.
He has to embody the wide-eyed terror of Child Chiron. Child Chiron is great too. I'm not going to discredit that
They're all
performance at
great
all.
Chirons.
They're all incredible performances. But he had to balance the the world is so much bigger than me and I don't know what to do, of young Chiron. He has to make that transition into being hard as adult Chiron, and he also has to deal with his confusing teenage emotions and hormones and all these feelings that are flushing to him, and his mother's condition is getting worse. I just think that teenage Chiron had to maybe carry the most weight out of any actor in the whole film.
I can see that too.
And I would have nominated him personally.
And one thing I just want to plug right before we wrap up, it's another movie I haven't seen, but Martin Scorsese's Silence.
Yes,
I need to see
barely
that.
got any. I think did it get one nomination?
It got cinematography.
That was it. I think
that was it. But I think a lot of people were saying it's not getting enough attention that it deserves. And I've yet to see it. Need to see it, and think other people should go see it.
And my last snub, I want to get to it because it's got the most snubs. I think it should have pretty much been nominated for everything but Swiss Army Man. Whether it's cinematography, director, best picture, best supporting actor, or best lead actor, wherever you want to put that farting corpse, because Daniel Radcliffe kills it.
I would swap out Daniel Radcliffe for another performance too. I think I'd take him out.
Best score, I think Swiss Army Man has a killer score. The cinematography is fantastic. And look, here's the thing about the nominations this year for Best Picture. I think 2 of the nominations were pity nominations, and I personally think it was Fences and Hidden Figures because of the Oscar So White controversy last year. Because all I heard about Fences was how great the acting was, and that was it.
I will say I've seen it, and it's
Hidden Figures I heard was a lot better than people thought it was going to be. Like that was the only thing I really heard.
It's pulp.
Like it did a really good job, but I think Swiss Army Man should have taken one of those spots. It should have gotten more because it's risky, it's bold. I don't even like the ending, but I think I appreciate and I respect how they end that film. And I think it's phenomenal how they handle it.
One note on the score before we wrap the episode up. I think absolutely the score and Daniel Radcliffe should have been nominated because of the way I've never seen a movie treat its score like Swiss Army Man does. The way that the score interacts with the movie and carries all these emotional themes is just really stunning. And I think for the way that they coordinated the film with the score alone should have been up for consideration from the Academy. But our time is up, everybody.
Oh my Lord.
We are going to have to wrap this up. I know this was a long one for us, but that's okay. Talking's fun. Thank you so much to Stuart for coming onto the show. We've been seeing a lot of him the past 3 days. Do you want to plug your stuff real quick?
Yeah, just go to YouTube and search up Cardinal Film Fights. That's Cardinal Film Fights.
They just had a Star Wars episode, which I watched
it's really good.
night. Yeah, it was enjoyable.
I think it's one of our best. Not just saying that because I actually debated in it, but it is a really good show. So
Well,
look us up on YouTube.
I love Catherine Gardner, so that was fun
she's
to watch.
amazing. Subscribe to our
Gardner,
YouTube
my
channel and subscribe and like all of our social media stuff. But yeah.
Yep. Twitter and Instagram at Card Film Fights.
Yep.
Well, good work, everybody. That was our 2016 Academy Awards podcast special. Thank you for listening to us. We are going to be recording a real episode of our show tomorrow, so also be on the lookout for that. And until next time, this has been Brandon Kratkoczki.
And Stuart Elmore.
And Logan Sowash.
And I hope you all had a good time watching the Academy Awards on Sunday. And we will see you next time. Peace.